When we are posting things to our Google Classroom, it's important to be aware of how that impacts students. So keep in mind that every time you post something in Google Classroom, that automatically generates an email for them. It automatically, unless you watched the previous video and turned off your stream notifications, automatically posts something in the stream. If you attach a due date to it, then it does a couple of different things. One, it adds it to their Google Calendar for that Google Classroom, and two, it populates their to-do list. So be very careful and intentional with when you are populating things in Google Classroom. So to show you what that looks like here, I'm going to pull up an example student Google Classroom. Notice that I am in a student Google Classroom. This Google Classroom, this student account, I'm only part of 4 Google Classrooms, and I have 452 Google Classroom notifications. I, as an example, made a specific filter for these, so they go to a different folder, but typically they would just be populating right here for like right here in my inbox. So it's no wonder that kids get overwhelmed with their email and then they never actually use it, right? Because we post things in Classroom when they get an email. So it's important to teach them how to manage those notifications or what to do with those. And I have other videos on this website that can show you how to do that. So some of the other things that we need to be aware of, let's talk Google Calendar first. So every time we add a student to a Google Classroom, it automatically gives them a Google Calendar. And then if we post something with a due date, it automatically populates that Google Calendar. That can be super handy, but if students aren't taught how to manage their Google Calendars, then it can get super messy. So notice right here, these are all different Google Classrooms that I have been a part of at one point. They are no longer active, and so you can see those things actually aren't on my Google Calendar. So I'm just going to turn off the one that's showing the majority of stuff. That's my work Google Calendar. And right here is this Google Classroom I made for a training with Chief Moses, and notice that I have posted several things on my in my Google Classroom about that, and with the due date on it, and those are all showing up here. So it gives me some interesting stuff where I can click on it. It'll take me directly to that assignment in Google Classroom. Again, super handy. But if you're just putting things on there with dates kind of arbitrarily, this can really screw the student as they're trying to manage their time appropriately. Also, notice that this is due at 10:59 a.m. This is due at 11:58 p.m. That can get confusing. So be very intentional with your due dates. Finally, the other one that we need to be aware of is that when we give students things in Google Classroom, whether we give them a due date or not, it populates their to-do list. So notice I am here showing all of my classes to start off. And if I have given it a due date, it shows me what's due this week. Again, super handy unless we're just putting dates on there kind of arbitrarily. Again, I can click on this and it'll take me directly to that assignment in Google Classroom. However, even if I don't put a due date on it, I just post an assignment to Google Classroom, that also populates here under my to-do list just without a due date. It can be very confusing. And notice, even though these were posted a year ago, almost exactly a year ago here, they're still going to be showing up on my to-do list because I haven't gone and turned them in or done anything. So when we get students who just kind of arbitrarily are turning in assignments, they're probably trying to clear their to-do list because their parents are looking at their to-do list and saying, you've got all these things to do, and they're just turning in these things, and that gets very frustrating. So be very careful about posting assignments for your students because they populate the due dates, or they populate the to-do list whether or not you give them a due date. Also know that you can sort by Google Classroom here, right? So this is the only thing, this is now only showing this Chief Moses Middle School Google Classroom. And then if I go to missing, it'll show me what I have missing from that as well. Notice that, if I change classes, those things are showing up there. And then if I have done something, it'll show everything here. So teaching students to be aware and how to navigate that to-do list is also super important.